The following is a conversation with Mateo Ploquin. He's a startup founder based in San Francisco. He is half Mexican, half French, and has been an entrepreneur for about 6 years. We talked about moving around a lot as a kid growing up. We talked about the beauty of being an entrepreneur. And we talked about how hard it is to actually make a successful business. I hope you enjoy. All right, what's up, man? Mateo, how are you, dude?
What's up, dude? How are you?
Thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Yo, of course, dude. Anything.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, just I think we met like a couple weeks ago, and here in SF, we're based out of SF, and I just thought you were a super interesting guy. I was just like, yeah, let's sit down for a conversation. So, kind of want to go through like your story, your background.
For
All
sure.
that. Is that cool?
Yeah. I mean,
Awesome.
I don't think that I'm that interesting, but I mean, I'm happy to share my story and everything.
Awesome. I mean, look, you're the star of the show today, so feel free to ramble on, talk about whatever, like talk for as long as you want. It's all good. You're the star of the show. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Mateo, perfect. So, first question is, so you grew up in Mexico. You're from Mexico,
Yeah.
but I saw on your LinkedIn that you actually went to a French school when you were a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah. So actually, I didn't grow up in Mexico. I grew up in many different parts of the world. I was born in the U.S. My mother is Mexican, and my father is French. So my upbringing was a constant movement. I lived basically every 2 years we moved places. So that's one thing that really marked my childhood was kind of having that constant movement in my life, which also kind of forced me to like become really adaptable. So whether we lived sometime in Mexico. We also lived in China, in Turkey, in France, in the U.S., in Switzerland, in Spain, in Ireland. So that's kind of how I grew up. But more recently, I started hanging out with when I went to college. My friends, they were all Latinos, and I kind of like got closer to my like Mexican side, I would say. And so that's why when people ask me where are you from, I say Mexico, even though just kind of like half or one third, in a way.
That's super interesting. I'm wondering, like, why you guys moved so much when you were younger.
So actually, yeah, you also met my twin brother, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's one thing that was actually good. It's like we were always together. So whenever we arrived, say to like a new school, we were at least, I always knew one person, my brother. And we were twins, so we were like sometimes in the same class, etc. Why we moved? Different reasons. Every time was a different reason. Like at the beginning, it was because of my dad's job. He moved around a lot, and then it was also different reasons around family and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, I kind of started liking it at some point. So yeah, like more recently, like for example, I just arrived to SF, and it's my first time here. I had never been here before,
Wow.
and I didn't know anyone. But instantly I arrived, and I just kind of like I like not like knowing anyone or not knowing anything about the place is kind of a known feeling for me. It's like I already know, like that the first few weeks, first few months, you know I'm not gonna like be comfortable. But once you actually have done it a few times, like I have, it's like that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So you kind of just, if you stress about things, and if you kind of try to like force things to happen, it becomes more painful and like harder. So it's kind of just like being really, it's like when you know that like things are not gonna work out every time, or like you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna overpay for things, you're gonna get lost. And it's just like if you're okay with that happening, you will get through it faster, and you'll meet new people faster, and exactly. So yeah,
Totally, man. I mean, I loved something that you touched on is about being adaptable. You kind of learned how to be adaptable from an early age.
yeah,
Um, I personally, I'm not that adaptable, if I'm being honest. I'm a creature of habit, and I
yeah,
like doing the same thing every day.
yeah.
And like new environments
Okay.
are it takes time for me to adapt to new environments, or at least longer than some people. Talk about talk about like how you learn to be adaptable, and like, do you feel like you are good at being adaptable? Do you think that's one of your strengths?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like that's like one of my strengths. I would think like I've kind of used that in many different contexts of my life, not just say like geographic location. So um, when I arrive, when I start a new job, when I start a new business, when I arrive even to like a party without knowing anyone, it's like, and it's kind of a lesson that it's almost like you know like you can almost like apply to like so many things, like even like building a startup. Like adaptable means like you're like comfortable with like you know with making mistakes, and
Mm.
like with like being adaptable just means that you're like quick at trying things and trying to like you know uh, not make mistakes is what will prevent you from like not trying things. And so when you arrive somewhere, and or like from when you arrive to a new company, for example, and say if you're someone that's adaptable in a certain sense, then you're gonna talk to people and try different things, like can be talk to people or just like kind of try to figure out like how things are working just by doing them. And the more things that you do, the faster you can collect information, like how things actually work and who are the the people that you should talk to, and like, oh, these are cool guys, not cool, not so cool, etc. And the more you try, and the less you kind of like stress about like what's the right thing that I should do, and like who are the people that I really want to hang out with, the faster you're actually gonna be able to figure it out. So it's like kind of not stressing about like, okay, I need to find my group of friends. Like people often think about friends, for example, when they arrive somewhere new and they're like, what if I don't make any friends? Or that's usually like a pretty big, stress point for people.
Worry, yeah.
Worry, exactly.
Hmm.
Um, and for example, I remember in Hong Kong, like like a few years ago, I was in this like student residence living, and this girl, she was like after like 2 weeks of we arrived at the same time, and after 2 weeks she was like having a bad time because she was like, I thought I was gonna arrive and like I was gonna make so many friends, and that hasn't happened. And I remember telling her like, you just have been here for 2 weeks, like, like relax, like you're gonna figure it out. Just like let things happen. And then yeah, she was like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, why am I like so? And then like a few weeks later, she had like a whole ass group of friends, and she was having the time of her life. She was almost like gonna leave, and I convinced her like just give it like some more time. Like things will work out. And then like yeah, a few weeks went by. She made friends, and then I remember she came over. Like she came to me to talk like a month later. Like what that when you told me that like that really changed my mindset. And then like the second I kind of stopped like really like obsessing about like really having to find people, I was able to relax, and kind of like just things started happening for me without forcing them. And 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 yeah, so I think that's adaptable is really just about being okay with making mistakes, and yeah.
Totally, totally. I mean, so, first of all, it just kind of goes to show how much, I guess, having a friend group or a tribe, so to speak,
Yeah.
affects like your happiness and stuff like that. And like
Also.
also like your sort of collective intelligence as a group of friends is bigger than a singular intelligence, right, of a single person. But back to the adaptability thing. I mean, I think that's such a critical skill, especially if you're working in startups.
Yeah.
Like for me, I work for a startup now, and the processes are constantly changing. Like we're figuring out processes as we go about the week, right?
Yeah.
So, and which is different, which is very different from an established older company where the
Exactly.
processes are, pretty much set in stone and all you have to do is follow them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, talk to me just a little bit about how kind of like adaptability has helped you in the startup world.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I agree. Especially. I mean, the fundamentals, like the fundamental difference between a corporation and a startup is that a startup is building something that doesn't exist yet. So there's not really like a playbook. There's not like you should sell to this person this product. And because if there is a playbook, that means it already exists. And then so startups are by definition super adaptable or should be adaptable, um, because they need to try so many different things until something works. And the more adaptable they are, the faster they're able to build products and just figure out whether it sticks. There's customers for it. And so adaptability, it can be kind of, you can frame this skill in many different ways. You can frame it as adaptability, but in startups, the more adaptable you are, the faster you are, and you're able to figure out your business quicker. So yeah, I mean that's the difference between going into like a corporation and doing sales, and you kind of have that playbook that you just have to follow, and it's good for certain people that can follow that and can be very successful. But if you go into a startup, there's no playbook. So you gotta be adaptable. You gotta test things, and at the same time, as we just mentioned, you can't be being adaptable means that you're not scared of making mistakes, because you're gonna make mistakes and things are gonna break, and you're gonna build a product and then you're gonna figure out no one wants it. It's okay. Every startup has done it. It's about how fast you're able to like bounce back and then try something else and try something else and try something else. And that's the truth. Like I mean, some startups do figure it out at the first time, but most don't. Like that's the reality.
Yeah, hopefully the mistakes you make aren't too costly. Like you're not losing too much, but obviously
Exactly.
everyone's gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
Startups.
Yeah. I mean, and you of course want to optimize for that. So if you once you understand that, say you don't know like what the customer say you don't know like what the right formula is, so you don't know that people are going to buy this, then you understand that okay, it's just a speed game. I don't need to spend 1 year building this product, then 500K in this ad, because actually at the moment I don't know if that's something people want. So you kind of until you figure that out, you just need to be very adaptable.
Totally, totally. So before we kind of jump into like startups and where we're at in SF and kind of the state of things
Yeah.
in tech, kind of want to take you back to college. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you went to college in Spain, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you went to college in Spain, you studied business and data science, correct?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious, when you first got into college, usually that's sort of the first time you get that independence as a young person, as a young man or whatever. What was your mentality going into college, and what did you want to achieve with that time?
Yeah. So that was I started college, yeah, 6 years ago, something like that. Actually, I took my independence from my parents when I went to college. So I started living by myself, moved to a new country, and so very quickly it was like, okay, well, like, what do you want to do? And I think I spent like 2 weeks in college, and instantly I started building a startup. So like, uh, I remember like arriving to Segovia, which is the town where I was studying, and met up with one friend of mine. So I mean, before that, I was already kind of into building stuff, or not stuff, but like businesses or like side businesses.
Yeah.
Um, and I already had kind of my idols, and these like famous people, entrepreneurs, etc. Um,
Can you name a couple of idols?
yeah, I mean, for
Because
some,
everyone has them, right?
yeah. I always really idolized Zuckerberg. Uh, like, when I was younger, I was kind of like more on the like shy side of like people,
Sure.
and yeah, I kind of like always like admired like how he just like the movies and the books, I read them, and he's so brutal, like he's such an admiring, like the way he built like this huge business, like since he's like 20 or 19. But I mean, the reality is like when I was like 18 or whatever, you read or look at these movies and you think like it's gonna go like that, and the reality is like it doesn't. You build a business and it fails, and it's like Zuckerberg did it, like why can't I? It's like, uh, and so it's not necessarily like good, I would say, maybe to like really look at these people and be like, I want to be like them. Like it's inspiring, but it kind of like, especially like the story of Zuckerberg, for example, like he launched Facebook, and instantly became, or very quickly became, like this hot startup, and then corporation. And so it kind of made me really obsessed about my first product, which was Shield, which was my first startup. And then like for me, I could not pivot away from like this idea for like 2 years and a half. So it was like things were not moving forward, but I was like so like stuck on this because it was like it had to work out. And after 2 years and a half, I was like super frustrated because in my head it had to work out, but it didn't, like just because like the product wasn't good for I mean, it was good, but it wasn't useful for people. So the hidden reality that you don't see is that like Zuckerberg tried 20 different things before he tried Facebook, but people don't talk about that. So it's that other side of.
Totally. I mean, well, some of mine were Bill Gates. I thought Bill Gates was
Yeah.
like next level. Next
Yeah,
level.
he's the first.
He's like the Rockefeller of the, I guess, 20th century, 20th and I guess early 21st century.
Yeah.
And then I had, well, Elon Musk.
Yeah. Elon Musk.
Maybe not so much recently, whatever, but definitely Elon Musk when I was in high school was an idol for sure.
I'm trying to think. High school. Dude, that was a moment ago. So. I remember. I mean, I think like I started following like YC and all these startups like from San Francisco. I was always like, I've been trying to come to San Francisco since like forever.
Well, you made it.
Yeah.
You made it.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we move on, you were at college and you founded some startups. Your first one was Shield,
Yeah.
and you were obsessed with this problem. Just real quick, talk about what the problem was
Yeah.
that Shield was trying to solve.
Yeah. I would say like also my intentions were not the best. Like like I wasn't obsessed with the problem. I was just like obsessed with making it work. So, and maybe that's why it also wasn't, the right company or product, because, my intentions were not like within like the product itself. It was just like, yeah. So the product, what was it? It was a privacy tool. So it was a Chrome extension for people to filter like trackers and cookies on their browser. And so back in that moment, I think people were more worried, about that. I personally wasn't, but I thought like people were saying they were. So I would just, let's just build something for that. And that was the initial product that we built. But then very quickly, we got some traction on that, and we decided, I decided like, okay, so there's something that I should like explore more. And so I came up with an idea to like kind of build a marketplace for personal data. So where people could like monetize or sell their personal data. And so in theory, that kind of is an interesting idea, but the reality is like you need millions of users before you can even start selling data to companies. And so that's why after like 2 years and a half, basically just kind of swimming against the currents, we stopped because we tried to get corporations like banks and insurance companies like on board, then like make them promises like, oh, don't worry, we're going to scale, and we're eventually going to reach, 1 million users or whatever. But then you don't, and so. So
Well,
yeah.
at least you had the audacity to go up to a bank or go up to a corporation and actually sell them on a product, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
actually something not a lot of people have. But like it's surprising how many technical people there are in like SF and Silicon Valley
Yeah.
who just can't sell, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing I learned from founding a company or a startup like that young was like I learned to sell and it's just like sales like outbound leads. No, it's like selling myself, selling my startup constantly to like investors, employees, like or just anyone that would like ask about it. Kind of learn to explain things in a certain way. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's my biggest like takeaway from building that startup.
Awesome. So that's perfect. So you eventually found your way to SF finally.
Yeah.
I know your brother's in New York, so he didn't want to join you, I guess.
No.
He's got other plans.
Yeah.
But so you're here in SF. First of all, how did you like SF? I know it's your first time here. How do you like the startup culture, the I guess like tech culture, innovation culture in SF? And why did you think it was important to be in San Francisco?
Yeah. So just some context, like I graduated in July. We're now in October or something. And so I graduated college in July, and when I graduated, I kind of had a business running. I had a media company, which I started with a friend of mine, and I had already been doing that for like a few months, and everything that I did before that was in tech. But I decided like I'm tired of tech, and I'm gonna do this. Happens, and I thought like I'm not necessarily like really into this like building a media brand, but let me just do it until I find something else, right? And honestly, it worked out pretty well. Like the media kind of took off. We had like more than 1 million followers pretty quickly on the page, and it was taking off.
Wow.
But I was like really not motivated by it. So after 6 months, I realized like I'm not finding my what drives me because I'm not looking. So for me to find it, I need to stop doing what I'm doing right now and start looking. And so when I realized like I'm not motivated by this anymore, the media, I quit and I came to SF. like in like 3 days. It happened really quickly.
But moving to SF was sort of had always been in the back of your mind, right? You said you wanted
Yeah.
to be here. You've been wanting to be here for a long time.
Yeah.
So I imagine like, okay, you're looking for something new. I've always wanted to go to SF. Let's go to SF.
Exactly.
Sort of.
Exactly. I mean, I of course like didn't know SF like until I came. But I heard, I've been like listening to podcasts
Y
and
Combinator,
videos
everybody.
and everything, and for some reason, like, no, not for some reason, for a very specific reason, but everything is happening here. Like it's like, maybe like 90% of like the really like cutting edge startups are here. Like, and I mean like not 90% of all the startups. I mean like the ones that are like really changing the game. Like the ones that are like really at the bleeding edge. They're like 90% of 95% here. Like, so it's really crazy.
It's definitely an interesting phenomenon that like all the startups, all the
Yeah.
innovative startups are in one place.
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning of a new trend or at the beginning of a new era.
Yeah.
So like with we're in the AI era now, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because all the AI startups are in SF. Like all the big AI like foundational model startups, etc.
Yeah.
They're in SF.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the what I think why it happens, and it's kind of like maybe oversimplifying it, of course, but it's kind of like the exponential. It's very kind of an exponential phenomenon, because what exponential means is that in the top. So you have the exponential kind of curve in so many things in the world. So like the top 1% of the companies generate the 99% of the profits or the revenue for, the top 1% of the, world owns like 99% of the wealth. And in this case, well, you have the top 1% of the cities. San Francisco has 99% of like the top, like, the best like companies. And that's because it's kind of a exponential cycle in the sense that, say, like one person brings in, like, you have the best people in the world here, the best researchers, for example, and because there's the best researchers here right now, the next wave of best researchers is going to come here, and that's kind of an exponential curve because one researcher brings in two of the top best researcher, and it's kind of exponential in that sense because people like to be around the best, like the best people like to be around the best people, and so you have the best Chinese people, you have the best Mexicans, you have the best French people, you have the best Spanish people, the top 1% from the entire world comes to the top 1% city, San Francisco. So that's kind of why I think it happens like that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing being here. I'm really grateful that I'm here also. So, okay. So, I guess to kind of circle back or like wrap things up. So we're currently living in the AI age, as we talked about. So, let's talk about AI for a little bit. Like, what do you think AI's impact on society is going to be? How do you see all of this play out?
Wow, I mean, it's hard to know, especially from someone that's not like deeply technical and deeply like for me, I don't understand exactly like what like say like how AI is built, and I think like to be able to understand like what it can do, you need to understand like really what it is. And I mean, of course, I studied data science and I understand the code and I understand the math, but to a certain extent, and for me, what I like to think of right now, and I don't know where it's gonna be, but at the moment, the most interesting part for AI, from my perspective, is the application layer. It's like the implementation, and so working on verticals working on, say, like when I say verticals, I mean like industries like manufacturing, logistics, healthcare, and kind of like using the brain power that today AI has, the brains. So when I mean the brain power, it's like using the intelligence of like OpenAI or Anthropic and these models that are, really, really smart, and fine tuning it or adapting it to like use cases around healthcare industries, like heavy industries or whatever. That's where like a huge opportunity lies, because when you live here, you think that everything's about AI, and then you go to Mexico, where I'm from, and people don't have cell phones yet. So it's like there's still a long way to go. There's still so many applications that like are to be unlocked.
Is there one particular application that inspires you? Like, yeah, is there one?
I remember the other day, it's easy to kind of like get lost or like get like, I would say like it's easy to like get lost in the like there's so many applications like which one, and then in the like idea loop where you're like also ideas, and you kind of just have to go for one, and I remember I think like a few weeks ago I went to this conference. Who was like this guy was giving the conference saying how he built like voice agents for healthcare companies to automate, like not to automate, but to replace like their customer support. And I was like, that's so specific. Like, what's the business? Like, how big is the business? He says, every day we make 500,000 calls.
Wow.
And it's like, dude, I don't know how much money you're making, but it's huge.
You didn't even want to ask. You didn't even want to ask.
I mean, I know he was making, pretty,
a good amount,
pretty interesting amounts. And it's like, when you're like from the outside, it's like, that's such a small business or like a small like niche, like, healthcare, customer support. So like for hospitals, it's like, okay, how many customer support people are there in hospitals? One or two, or not that many. But then he explained like, hospitals have customer centers in India, with 10,000, 20,000 people. And so, with AI, you can like scale that to infinite with, just like GPUs. So.
Awesome. Okay, and then last question. There's a lot of talk about sort of the long tail of AI and like what the long-term effects are going to be, and are we going to get to like artificial superintelligence and all that stuff. So my question is, do you see sort of a net positive a future AI future, or like a negative AI future? And what does that future look like?
It's like, first of all, I think it's important to like define like when we say AGI, like what does it mean? And for me, the definition of AGI is when the models become self-improving. So like, and to simplify it, it's like when Anthropic can code on its own like Anthropic, code base, and then it's like that makes like, as we discussed, it becomes exponential. So because you can scale that infinitely, and then it's like, it's gonna replace her. No, I'm joking.
It's gonna replace her. But you think it's gonna be a good thing?
I'm honestly pretty optimistic about it. I would say I think that it's gonna solve many, really can solve like really big problems, around. My instinct is like around healthcare, for example, and these are some of the things like us humans have been trying to solve for decades or centuries, and I think in a certain sense, like that's gonna bring a lot of value to the world we live in, but I mean, I think us human race, we're very adaptable. So we've adapted always. But in the process of adapting, there is always, that, things or shifts like that are gonna erupt, like, well, layoffs and periods where maybe, there is a process where people, are left out of, the new wave,
The benefits.
the benefits exactly. But eventually, I think, humans are adaptable and will adapt.
I love how we came full circle back to adaptability.
Yeah, that's crazy. Actually.
Humans are adaptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Actually, everything was scripted, guys.
awesome. No, man. Mateo, thank you so much, man. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed kind of like laying out your story and like just picking your brain. So thanks, man. I
Dude,
appreciate
of course, it's actually really pleasant to kind of talk about things and that. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, man. You're welcome back anytime, bro.
Done.
All right. See ya, man. Thanks.
See you, dude.